Baki Hanma and Tokita Ohma are fighting on the 6th of June, broadcasted worldwide on Netflix, the crossover anime film of Baki and Kengan Ashura. It's really feeling like a UFC event at this point, therefore here is everything you need to know about the main card. Baki Hanma, the protagonist and champion of the underground in the Baki world, versus Tokita Ohma, the Ashura protagonist and beast of Kengan Ashura. Strangely enough, we need to go over which version of the two fighters are participating in this fight, being an important factor when it comes to abilities and how strong they are. An aspect that could be a little confusing, particularly for Baki, which is a series spanning over 1,000 chapters with its manga, which has resulted in 6 main manga series to represent the continuation of the story. First is known as Grappler Baki, which is covered in this older anime, where Baki became the definitive champion of the underground tournament. Second is New Grappler Baki. This is where Netflix first began its release of the series. This includes the Most Evil Death Row Inmate saga, the Chinese tournament, and everything about Ali Jr. The third, known as Baki Son of Ogre. This comes with the most recent installment on Netflix known as Baki Hanma, including the Oliver arc, everything regarding Pickle, and of course the father-son fight. Fourth is Baki Dao, or better known as the Musashi Miyamoto arc. This is confirmed as in the works by the same studio bringing us this fight, and of course who did the most recent Baki anime seasons on Netflix. Fifth is also known as Baki Dao, but better known as the Sumo arc. And then 6 is the current ongoing manga known as Baki Rahen, which I talk about on this channel and can be considered the Jack Hanma arc. Therefore, the Baki Hanma featured in this film seems to be from the 3rd or 4th manga. It's either right before his Yujiro fight or pretty much right after. For context of the timeline, the Musashi arc begins, I would say, a few months after the conclusion of Baki vs Yujiro. Not that long at all. Yes, it took years to come out, but in the timeline of the Baki world, that's how long it's really been, so nothing too major. However, we do see Baki training, so him getting stronger is of course a guarantee. The reason I say it's out of these two is pretty much determined from the most recent trailer. This is because we see Katsumi still missing his arm, and Jack's face damage from Pickle being pretty fresh, looking exactly like he did in that little moment where we cut to him during Baki vs Yujiro, meaning it of course won't be the strongest version of Baki, current manga version, as it's behind around 12 years of manga material, something that features Baki gaining more experience and developing as a fighter, but not really any specific moves or techniques which will be missing from this film as a possibility that he develops later. Baki Hanma vs Kengan Ashura features a very complete Baki. This is because the author of the series, Itagaki, revealed in a Q&A that after the conclusion of his fight with Yujiro, this is also the completion of his character arc, explaining why since then we've had 3 manga where he isn't really the protagonist anymore. Personally, I would consider Musashi the protagonist of that arc, then Sukune, and now Jack, with Baki still being around and quite prevalent, but not as much as the previous manga series. And even the degree he develops as a fighter is also not going as fast as previously, so this is a pretty good version of Baki, with of course pretty good timing, as to many Baki vs Yujiro's fight is a big climactic point in the series. However, for Tokita Ohma, we have much more of an issue. As the title of the film suggests, this is Ohma from the manga and anime Kengan Ashura. However, the anime has not completed its main arc, the Kengan Annihilation Tournament. The next season of the anime is confirmed to be releasing in August, a month after this film, with Ohma revealing a lot more abilities and developing power-wise in those later fights. On top of that, Kengan Ashura also has an ongoing sequel manga going by the name Kengan Mega, which now has over 200 chapters. Weekly releases has been for years, which features Ohma getting much stronger, with some of the most overpowered techniques in the entire series being wielded by him. Even right now in the most recent chapters, he's potentially on the biggest training arc we've ever seen for him, trying to grow in power to face someone in a completely different realm to really anyone in Kengan Ashura, and by a large margin as well. which will most likely mean his abilities are going to be quite restricted in this film, at least with what version they're using of him. However, with all of this said, this is just me being objective. Considering the writing of the film and the fight itself, Baki and Ohma having a close fight is pretty much a guarantee, them being relative to one another in the film. But just on a broader perspective on what versions they're using is important to note, more so when it comes to techniques and abilities, which I'll be going over soon. But do take note, both fighters pretty much have most of their main abilities. There is one for Ohma I'll go into detail about, which he may not have, which is a little unfortunate as it's pretty much his ultimate technique. But I still have faith in the film, and regardless of anything that happens, it's going to be very enjoyable, and that's what we're here for. So for Baki Hanma, the main techniques we need to consider, we want to see the demon back. That really depends on how much Ohma can push him. Considering the most likely occurrence writing wise, Baki unleashing the demon back will probably be happening. Apart from that, we could have him unleashing his imagination based moves. He does have some other abilities from early in Grappler Baki, but he doesn't really use those too much in the later seasons, at least when it comes to the Netflix adaptation since then. So seeing him steal people's techniques like he did in the Maximum Tournament probably isn't going to happen, but if it did, that would be pretty cool. I will definitely be shocked. I hope we get to see iconic moves like the cockroach dash, the various dinosaur imagination showings, and just Baki being what he is, a mixed martial artist, showing grappling exchanges, strikes, kicks, just everything from him, which is going to be pretty cool. And Ohma is definitely going to be doing the same. Ohma's martial art, the Nico style, has probably the most techniques than really any other martial arts manga. On screen now is me scrolling down the wiki, going over all the techniques Ohma and some of the other characters who use the Nico style have used. There is an insane amount, with all these techniques covering pretty much every aspect of fighting, some of them being pretty overpowered that we may not get to see. However, there are quite a few which are pretty much the staple of Ohma's Nico style that he tends to use in most fights, so seeing these techniques used on Baki is pretty much a guarantee. But there are two specific moves that I don't know if we're going to get both of them, but one of them is already confirmed. First is the advanced, the possessing spirit, Ohma's transformation. In the most recent trailer, in the final moment, we got a little glimpse where it seems like Ohma activated the advance as his arm is now more reddish here, so that's cool to see. If that is in combination with Baki unleashing his demon back for the final clashes of their fight, that's pretty much the perfect outcome for us fans. Ohma's advance works via his heart pumping blood throughout his body faster. This results in an increase in speed and torque, which allows him to hit his opponent harder, of course. Baki's demon back doesn't have an in-depth explanation in the series. It's just assumed it grows their pretty much overall power when activated, whether that be endurance, speed, just every raw stat. It isn't like outright confirmed 100%, but based on what we've seen and the times he's used it, that's most likely the case. In the final fight of the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, Ohma pulls out a specific technique, his ultimate technique that we haven't yet seen fully in the anime yet. In the final episode, he used that technique, but we didn't get to see it and hasn't been explained to any degree, which means the technique known as Demon's Bane probably won't be making an appearance in this film, which is a little unfortunate. The fight itself is taking place in the underground arena set more so in the Baki world, with Baki being revealed as the champion multiple times in the trailers, so it's pretty much Ohma representing the Kengan Association alongside Ryan and Sorpang most likely, fighting the pretty much Baki fighters in the underground arena, demonstrating what the Kengan Association is capable of, while also giving Ohma what he wants, an interesting fight, as a main character point about him is seeking battle. His whole character type is a battle seeker, which is revealed in the later parts of the Kengan Ashura manga, and pretty much shown. Now with all of that said, take this crossover film as just entertainment. The winner of the fights aren't that serious, as mentioned before, the versions of the characters used. In the other fights, for example, Ryan vs Jack Hanma. Jack right now in the current manga is miles stronger than this version, much more development compared to Baki, and likewise for the Kengan Ashura version of Ryan compared to current Kengan Omega, which I actually broke down in this video here, an in-depth battle between Jack Hanma and Kurei Ryan. Definitely recommend checking that out. But shout out to these members, the Mad Lads. You can become one as well if you want to support the channel and get access to all of this. But that's it guys, peace.